Cheese. It's in our burgers, it's in our pastas, and somehow it's the subject of our dystopian nightmares because the government has been running a cheese coup, a dairy coup, one may say, since 1949. Let me explain. Today we're going to talk about why the government has used campaigns like Got Milk into brainwashing you into thinking that you need to drink 3 servings of milk a day. Just look at commercials like this one.
You're fired!
Welcome to eternity.
Heaven. Yes. No. Wait a minute. Where am I?
Got milk?
We're even going to talk about the super suspicious cheese caves that hold millions of pounds of cheese. That's right.
Cheese in caves.
Grab your crackers, because things are about to get messy. Cheesy. Whatever. Strap in as we learn about how the government is utterly obsessed with the dairy industry. You can go ahead and subscribe now. Look, I know that you know that you know that I know that milk is probably not your favorite beverage. I'm probably gonna take a guess and say that it's probably pretty low on your taste bud scale. I mean, no one is just actively volunteering to guzzle down a gallon of milk with their DoorDash Locos Doritos taco. But the government has been making an effort to brainwash the American society into believing they need to guzzle down milk since around the 1970s, 80s, and the government milk conspiracy has been going on since the Great Depression. Now that Americans are more than ever turning to alternatives like soy milk and almond milk, these alternatives are making the government sweat. 1 in 4 Americans has lactose intolerance, so that they are intolerant to drinking milk or they just can't digest it well, and 1.9% of Americans are allergic to milk. That leaves over 25% of Americans with some kind of adverse effect to drinking milk.
Coming out of me like lava!
Yet the USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, still encourages people to drink 3 servings of it today. And if it's not adding up to you, good, because it's not adding up with me either. So we can deduce from that information that the US Department of Agriculture really wants the United States to drink milk. But why? I grew up on a farm, and while I didn't farm dairy cows, I had regular cows, chickens, you know, the works.
Mister, would you pay with us?
I understand the hesitancy to buy lab-grown meat and things like that, but I don't understand why so many people are so against buying almond milk. Almond milk, soy milk, it's still contributing to the agricultural department of the United States. It's still contributing to those farmers who farm almonds and farm soybeans. Going to these alternatives isn't like we're just cutting out the middleman altogether and skipping the farmers. So why does the USDA care so much that we drink milk that comes exclusively from the underboob of a large stinky mammal? It wasn't like there was ever a nationwide epidemic of bone decay or anything, so why was the government doing this? What if I told you it's because the United States economic system runs completely on not oil, not coal, but milk. Ah, that creamy nectar of the bovine gods, the lifeblood of cereal, the reason we tolerate cows.
No, hush, little baby, don't you cry. Everything's gonna be alright.
Milk is the fuel that quite literally powers the United States. The dairy industry is one of the most essential ways that we can check up on the health of the economy. This is because agriculture in the United States is probably the most essential industry in the United States. We provide so many exports, and we provide almost all of our own agricultural goods. And the prices of dairy somehow also affect the prices of everything else. Because dairy farmers don't just produce milk. As you know, they produce milk products like cheese, ice cream, butter, what have you. But they also produce a lot of beef when those dairy cows are no longer milkable. They also are some of the largest producers of fertilizer, as all of that manure is just sucked up onto trucks and used to fertilize other crops, which all of America's other imports are also reliant on in order to have a good, healthy crop. That's right, they're just using vacuums to suck up all that cow shit and pump it out onto the fields. The production of dairy is also essential to trade routes like trucking industries, and on top of that, factories all over the country need milk because it's an ingredient in literally every food ever. The government needs you to drink milk.
During the Great Depression, FDR created a corporation that was structured by the government called the Commodity Credit Corporation, otherwise known as a CCC. This was extremely beneficial because back during the Depression, the CCC would monitor certain markets specifically regarding the exports and commodities within the U.S. at that time. That was when the CCC decided that monitoring the dairy profits in the United States was essential to all of the other economics within the U.S. to make sure that the Depression didn't get much worse than it already was. In 1948, the CCC eventually became a complete federal entity, meaning that it was owned and managed by the United States government and had high ties to the United States Department of Agriculture. But before it was federalized into the United States government, they had already agreed that in order to artificially inflate the milk market, the CCC would buy up milk farmers' excess milk in order to keep the market going strong during the Great Depression. Also keep the farmers producing enough milk to power the American people. What did they do with all that milk, you ask? Well, that's a surprise we're going to talk about later. But the bottom line is that now the U.S. government was pretty much forced into buying a certain amount of excess milk from all dairy farmers across the United States.
Which, that was all fine and good until the energy crisis in the 1970s led to the price of milk absolutely skyrocketing. This led to so many impoverished families being unable to afford milk. Now no one can afford milk. The government tells dairy farmers they need to produce more milk because the price of it on the market is so high because it's in so high of demand. And then the government tells them, but you're not allowed to sell the milk to the market at market value because that's way too expensive. So you want me to make more milk, but then not sell the milk? And the president at the time, Jimmy Carter, was like, yeah, you've got a point. I got it! Jimmy Carter decided that he was going to buy up all excess milk from United States dairy farmers. This went from the US buying a portion of excess milk to now buying all excess milk. And not just milk, also other dairy products like butter, cheese, whatever. So all the dairy farmers were like, and they started producing milk like absolute crazy. Now, all of the dairy farmers in the US were producing as much milk as humanly or cowardly possible because government has agreed to buy anything that all the dairy farmers have left over. We did it, guys! You made enough milk. Thanks for hitting your quotas. We brought the price of milk back down. You can stop touching the cow there now. Oh, hell no. You said you were gonna buy all my extra milk, and what do you think I'm doing? You can probably see where this led. A giant influx of government-owned milk and cheese and various dairy products. And they can't stop this program, which was deemed the Dairy Price Support Program, because then all of the farmers would just simply stop producing all the excess milk that they were currently making, and there was a fear that dairy businesses would go under, because ceasing the production could have led to another market crash. But they had to do something with all of this milk. That was when they had an idea, and that idea was cheese. See, milk has the shelf life of a literal fruit fly, but cheese, delicious, mold-prone cheese, that can last for years. It's like the decay of milk sells itself. It's genius. They decided to whip that milk up into cheese and store it the best place they could think of. It's a good thing that there's a government-operated area of an underground cave that stores millions of pounds of cheese in Springfield, Missouri.
Knee deep in the caves for the cheese that the government founded in my hometown.
Remember how I told you that back in the 1940s the government was buying a little bit of the excess milk to artificially inflate the market and then selling back dairy products? In the meantime, they were turning it into cheese and storing it in these underground caves until it was time for milk to be in demand and put it back on the market. That's because not only was the Great Depression a thing and people couldn't afford cheese, but the market of dairy is surprisingly unstable. Cows make the most milk in the spring because that's when they're birthing babies more than a K-named theme reality TV show.
And would you stop taking pictures of yourself? Your sister's going to jail.
But Americans don't drink most of their milk in the spring. They're actually drinking it in the fall when the kids start back to school and they're smothering it in their cereal and sucking it straight from the cardboard teat. So the thought process was store the milk as cheese, and then when the market is back up for dairy, put it back out there. But when Jimmy Carter agreed to buying all of the excess milk in the 1970s, they had more cheese than they knew what to do with. But Uncle Sam didn't panic. He just whipped on that Chef Boyardee hat, turned it into cheese, and stored it all in these cheese caves in Missouri. These are real underground caves that are high-tech facilities climate controlled. They're not owned by the government, but it's no secret that that's where the government cheese is, which brings me to my next point. Soon, the government had more cheese than they knew what to do with. Like, this was a moon-sized arsenal of cheese. I'm not even joking. As the United States entered the 1980s, then President Ronald Reagan decided that it was time to empty out the cheese caves. 30 million pounds of cheese would be distributed to various programs like food pantries, school lunches, those on Social Security. You get the point. So America started distributing out these packages of cheese to its people, and it was known as government cheese. And that's how we get the phrase government cheese. It has no, I just thought it meant money. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really did think it just meant money. The moral of the story is that after all of this happened, American farmers are still making too much milk to this day. But they're afraid if they tell them to stop, then it's just gonna crash the market. So what did they do? They decided that they were going to tell the American people that it was their job to drink more milk by encouraging them to do so. How'd they do that? I have one hint. Got milk? That's right, that's when the United States government decided to create the Got Milk campaign. The USDA created this organization called Milk Pep that was making these commercials and doing all of these celebrity endorsements where world-class Olympians, celebrities, pop stars, they were all showing like milk was like the new party drug. They were acting like it was the time of their life to drink milk. You've probably seen a Got Milk campaign.
Drink your milk, kids.
I don't want milk. Milk's for babies.
Yeah, babies.
Well, yeah? Well, I happen to know that milk helps build strong bones. So drink up.
Well, Mr. Miller told me he never drinks milk. Look at him.
Have you ever found it weird that it's not endorsing a specific brand? It's not like, go buy Prairie Farms, go buy Daisy brand cottage cheese, or, you know, it's just endorsing the dairy industry as a whole. That's because this campaign was funded by the California Department of Agriculture and then after that, the US Department of Agriculture. And it wasn't a campaign to endorse one particular brand of dairy product, it was a campaign to endorse all of dairy in order to make sure that Americans were drinking enough milk so that we don't get to a point where we have that much cheese in the cheese caves. Yeah, we still have cheese in the cheese caves at this point. We're still making that good old government cheese, but we're not really sending it out. The cheese arsenal is wearing down a little bit, and that's where we want to keep it. We don't ever want to get to that point of excess cheese again, which, I mean, I don't know, seems kind of like a way to, you know, help the food crisis, but what do I know? I'm not a politician, I'm just a YouTuber. So the USDA created an organization called Milk Pep to make these Got Milk commercials, and they would get world-class Olympians, pop stars, all of these famous people to endorse drinking milk. And these were plastered on billboards, put on TVs, these were plastered in school cafeterias. Suddenly we got fun little branding on the school milk cartons, and everything was absolutely awesome and great. That was until every American started shitting themselves. This is more of a personal rant for me, but I just want to say, we all know that milk is not the greatest beverage. Who on earth wants to drink milk with their Bosco stick and green beans at school out of a cardboard carton that's rimmed with envelope glue? That's disgusting. I don't want to do that. Other than the taste of milk, more adult Americans are developing food allergies later in life than ever before. As someone who's anaphylactic to peanuts, I know that this is a personal issue that happens within the anaphylaxis community. People will go their whole lives with no allergy and suddenly they're allergic to milk. And that is very true for milk. It's extremely common with milk, peanuts, and eggs. And other than allergies, more people are lactose intolerant to milk than literally ever. And that's because a lot of scientists agree that we aren't really biologically designed to drink that much milk as humans after, you know, breastfeeding age. Studies have shown it's really hard for us to digest, it causes bloating, and it causes acne, and a lot of Americans are seeking alternatives because of allergies and intolerances. Americans have turned to drinking alternatives like almond milk and soy milk, and the USDA is like, Whoa! You probably remember those campaigns with Aubrey Plaza that were trying to convince us that anything other than milk from a cow's udder was akin to sipping on sawdust. Yeah, that wasn't a great look for her. These ads were created to convince people not to drink the alternatives of milk, which is absolutely crazy and just straight up borderline propaganda, because you don't see the government saying, hey, don't eat pistachio ice cream, that tastes like a tree. Don't eat pecan pie, that tastes like a tree. Don't eat peanut butter, that tastes like wood. Well, that's actually because peanuts aren't actually grown on trees, they're actually grown under the ground. They're a type of legume closely related to beans, and that's why— oh my god, shut up. I am conspiracizing here? That's right. The other part of this situation is that the wood milk ad premiered exactly 1 week after a catastrophic explosion on a dairy cow farm in Texas led to the death of over 18,000 cows and injured one person. And that was because the government had okayed this farm to hold and house over double the amount of cattle they were designed to hold. And the excess amount of cattle led to an excess amount of cow shit. They were vacuuming out this cow poop to make the fertilizer I talked about earlier. There was an explosion that pretty much exploded a flammable cow shit truck that killed 18,000 cows. This is an issue that I have because as someone who's pro-agriculture, the one problem I can't get behind is how we treat dairy cows. Like, I will stand up for all sorts of agriculture, but the dairy industry is just so problematic, and these cows are not living in ideal living conditions, and the government just tries to sweep that under the rug all the time. So when Aubrey Plaza and Milk Pep collabed on this wood milk ad, it wasn't perceived well, and people criticized it and called both Aubrey and the government tone deaf, which, you know, no secret there. But the reason that they are really struggling to reach an audience at this point is because the original Olympians and celebrities that they used during the Got Milk ad in the 80s, 90s, 2000s is because a lot of those celebrities don't drink milk anymore. Just take Venus and Serena Williams, world-class tennis Olympic champions. They were originally, you know, kind of the headliners of the sporty aspect of the Got Milk campaign. Now they're both vegan adjacent and vegan. They use milk alternatives and have their own line of dairy-free protein drinks. Many celebrities aren't drinking milk anymore because of the inflammatory properties of it and because it causes acne and all sorts of other problems. So they basically created a whole campaign about how almond milk tastes like wood, which is just not true. It wouldn't taste like wood. It's not bark milk. It tastes like almonds. It's made of nuts. Anyway, eventually this Got Milk campaign just kind of stopped working for Milk Pep, and Milk Pep decided to go a different route where they created a campaign called Gonna Need Milk. I like it. Has a nice ring to it. Gonna Need Milk is also known as Milk Life, and they were the official sponsor of TwitchCon in 2022. Why? Gen Z, 90% of them play video games, so they decided that they were gonna get their milky little hands on TwitchCon. Not only did they sponsor several events at TwitchCon, but they also declared themselves as the official performance drink of gaming. Sorry G Fuel, sorry GamerSup, sorry Respawn, sorry all of those drinks designed for gaming, move over because gamers, us real gamers, are now drinking milk. That just sounds stupid. I mean, there are actual drinks that are designed for gamers to provide non-jittery energy, improve focus, things like that, keep you hydrated, and it's just weird to me that milk's only thing that it says it has going for it is that because milk is healthy, gamers should drink milk because that'll keep them healthy and it makes strong bones. What does that have to do with gaming? I'm sorry, it worked when you were trying to use it for sports, but now that Olympians don't really drink milk, you can't just hop onto a market that you have nothing to do with. That's ridiculous. Like, what, are my thumbs gonna break or something? Milk Pep, if you go to their website, has links to Milk Life and Milk, the official performance drink of gaming, and you can go to that website. I went to that website. It was really cringe, especially because a lot of the stock images that are used on the website are actually things that I used on one of my freshman college presentations. So yeah, there wasn't a ton of love that went into this. It looks like the whole website was made with card or something like that. But they are endorsing things like the Fortnite Milk Cup and saying that, you need to drink milk, all gamers drink milk. It's just really propaganda-y, and a lot of people believe that it's completely disingenuous because let's face it, what does milk have in common with gaming? Which one of you gamers are sucking on a glass of milk in between Fortnite rounds? Yourself at the end of every game. Let me know. Let me know. At the end of the day, I made this video because I really just cannot stand the idea of the USDA funding an entire marketing department that uses mediocre video and stock quality images and things like that on their website just to endorse a community of people to drink milk that has nothing in common with milk. That just gets under my skin so bad. I think it's so weird and so shady, and it just freaks me out. And hopefully I shed some light on all of the ways that the government has been brainwashing you to drink milk. So just remember, when you buy your cheese and you start sprinkling it over your plate of Doritos and you pop it in the microwave, just remember, the government has cheese in caves that you could have had for free. You're playing right into the government's little dairy cult, and they will stop at nothing to ensure that you are guzzling down as much milk as humanly possible. If you enjoyed this video, I'm Melody Ever After. I would really appreciate it if you checked out some of my other stuff. I'm a pop culture commentary channel, essay channel, whatever you want to call it channel, and I like making weird content about weird things, nerdy things, Dungeons & Dragons, horror movies, what have you. So if any of that sounds like it sparks your little interest, head over to that like button and pour in a nice glass of milk for me, will ya? In the meantime, guys, you've been watching Melody Ever After. Thanks for checking in with me. Thanks for staying here with me. Until next time.